Hello, this is the 187th edition of Catch of the Day, available on the Branch Talk YouTube channel. Today we're going to continue reading from a book written by Doug Mitchell entitled The Four Carpenters, the Ensign, the Time of Jacob's Trouble, and the First Deliverance. Starting near the top of page 25, we read The Message to Nineveh in track 14. Only addresses the aspect of Assyria's fall and that of his palace at the hand of the belligerent power, and not what happens to him in the promised land prior to that time. As noted previously, Brother Hoddeth didn't comment in that tract or anywhere else on the aspect of the Assyrian going into the land to do away with nations not a few, and is being used to punish the hypocritical nation, and thereafter fleeing from the land because he is afraid of the ensign. This situation explains why certain things in Brother Hoddeth's sermons during those same years that were published in the symbolic codes after his death seem to contradict other things published in track 14 and other published timely greetings. That is, track 14 and the published timely greetings addressed one phase of the Assyrian situation as it related to the nations involved in World War II and the fall of Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, while the other sermons that appear in those later codes are related to the aspect of the Assyrians' actions as they relate to the saints returning to the land and causing the Assyrian to flee from there. That is, the Assyrian fleeing from the land because he is afraid of the ensign, the voice of the Lord, etc., is different from his final fall at the hands of the nations. Furthermore, what many Davidians are failing to realize is that what he says in track 14 and other published TGs relates to what happens to the Assyrian in his own place, not what happens to him in the promised land. That is, there are two different circumstances that work to humble the Assyrian. One, when he loses out in the promised land, and another one following that when he loses out in his own place. Isaiah 31:9. And he shall pass over to his stronghold for fear, and his princes shall be afraid of the ensign, saith the Lord, whose fire is in Zion and his furnace in Jerusalem. At the time God's purifying fire is in Zion, and his purifying furnace is in Jerusalem, the Assyrian will pass over to his stronghold for fear, and his princes shall be afraid of the ensign. From this, we can see that Nineveh will not lose out completely when she loses in Palestine. She is to lose out in Palestine first, and then flee to her stronghold. This has reference to the time when the kingdom is set up before the scarlet-colored beast comes, before the woman rules the beast. Indeed, the prophecy is talking about Assyria, not Babylon. It shows that Assyria will lose out in the promised land before she loses her stronghold. The kingdom, then, is to be established before the complete fall of Assyria takes place. 13 Symbolic Code 1 and 2, 30 to 31. It is the confusing of those two circumstances that has led to the idea that the four carpenters are some Gentiles who cause the four horns to be frightened, and cast out of the land, and thus are some secular, even communist powers. That is, when what happens to the Assyrian in the land as a result of the fraying by the four carpenters is different than what happens to him at the hands of the belligerent nations. At his stronghold, his palace, his capital city, after he returns there, after fleeing from the promised land, out of fear of the Ensign. Nahum 2, 5-8. He shall recount his worthies, they shall stumble in their walk, that is, though he exules in them, they too nevertheless shall fall. They shall make haste to the wall, fortress thereof, and the defense by Assyria shall be prepared. The gates of the rivers nevertheless shall be opened, and the Assyrian's palace shall be dissolved, and Huzzab of Assyria shall be led away captive. She shall be brought up, and her maids, nations under her rule, shall lead her, as with the voice of doves, tabering upon their breasts. But Nineveh, the capital city, is of old like a pool of water, yet they, her citizens, shall flee away. Stand, stand, shall they cry, but none shall look back. Unlike flowing or undulating waters, water in a pool stands still. But in this instance, the waters, the peoples, in the capital city of the present-day Assyrians, contrary to all expectations and their fighting tradition, flee away. And even when they hear the command to stand, they shall be anxious to get out of the way of him that dasheth in pieces, that they shall not dare look back. Take care.